Coffee is good. Hi, Jada. Jada's saying hello to me, as well as the squirrels and the birds. Jada girl. All right. So that totally wasn't Jada. This is this other dog. I don't even know where he came from. Oh, you're so cute. Oh, man. Why is this so hard? This is so hard. I've been absolutely dreading this forever. Pretty much since the Lord told me to do it. I've just had some of the craziest things happen over the last month and a half of my life. And I felt like the Lord wanted me to share them, and he wanted me to blog about it. Well, I tried writing. I tried sitting down to write it, and I got so overwhelmed that I, of course, didn't finish it because I'm so not a writer. All throughout high school, I just, oh my gosh, like biggest procrastinator ever with essays and you name it, with writing stuff. It's so funny. Nate and I couldn't be more opposite when it comes to writing. So when God told me to blog about it, I was like, God, I can't blog. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this, but I'm clearly being disobedient because I've been avoiding it because I don't feel like I can blog. And I was telling my friend Becky this whole story and how I'm frustrated because I'm trying to write about it, but I just don't feel like I'm a good writer, and I'm very insecure about my writing and all this. And I'm like, man, if I could just make a movie, it'd be so much easier. I love making videos. It's relaxing to me. It's fun. It's a creative outlet. And she goes, Chelsea, she's like, there's your answer. She's like, just vlog about it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I could totally video blog. Why not? That might be better anyway, just as if I was telling the story in person. So, so I guess that's what I'm going to try to do today. So bear with me. I've never vlogged. I'm not a blogger. I don't know what I'm doing, but I don't think that really matters. I'm just telling a story. I'm a storyteller. I'm just going to tell a story. I'm going to tell you this crazy story, what happened to me. What happened to me this last month and a half. It's just been unreal. All right, so I'm going to take you back to Take on the World. For any of you who weren't able to make it to Take on the World, it was a crazy, ridiculous, amazing conference that Liz and Chris Bailey put on in Ohio. Weeks leading up until the conference, Nate and I had been in a crazy whirlwind of completely moving out of our house, cleaning things up, fixing things up to get our house ready to list, to sell it. In the meantime, moving into a friend's basement and being in that transition phase where we had gotten rid of our mattress and we're living on an air mattress and we're in an unfinished basement and things are in boxes everywhere and you can't find anything, and so you're rummaging through boxes, so there's open rummaged through boxes like everywhere. It was just chaos down there. As Take on the World was approaching, we were like, we have no clue how we're gonna get to Take on the World. Like we don't have the money to fly, let alone the money to rent a hotel and like stay anywhere. And we were just like, oh my gosh, God, like I don't even know how you're gonna get us there. Through his divine provision though, we had some friends, different friends of ours, donating to us financially, which helped provide gas and food expenses while we were traveling. And then we also had some amazing friends borrow us their RV. We get in this RV and we head halfway across the country, all the way to Ohio. We get to Ohio, and literally hours before the conference was about to start, the overwhelming heat and dealing with the septic tank on the RV horrifically triggered my husband. He was triggered so severely, he had a panic attack and was having horrific memories coming back. And this was literally like hours before the conference. We kind of set that aside and we're like, we'll deal with that, issue that came up when we can, but we got to just kind of put it to the side for now and just roll with the conference. So my experience with the conference was a little bit different, I think, than a lot of people's. Maybe not a lot of the moms that were there. Theirs was probably very similar to mine, but it kind of involved chasing my child around and just making sure that I was watching her and that she was safe and comfortable and fed and happy. And I really didn't get to sit in on hardly any talks. I think I sat in on Chris and Liz's talk, and that was why Nate was chasing her around. And then the whole rest of the time, I really just was in the gymnasium or outside. Anyway, Take on the World was great. However, I was like, we had just been through the whirlwind of trying to move and the emotions and the financial just burdens, borrowing someone's RV and being in an RV for the first time and then coming to Take on the World and then Nate being triggered and then me chasing Naomi the whole time. I was like, why am I here? I really dragged my daughter and I all the way out here, obviously to support Nate, but like, this is kind of brutal and like, I don't really know why I'm here. And that was kind of tough. And then the last night of the conference, we're in the gym and it's me and 2 other moms in there, and our kids are just ripping around the gym in a delirious, like super exhausted state. It's like 10:30 at night. It's way past the bedtimes, but the other moms are in the gym too, just like I am, because they're having what I call FOMO, fear of missing out. And so we were just in there just trying to socialize or get any last little bit of the conference out that we could. And as we were in that gym that night, I connected really powerfully with one of the moms, and she started telling me things that were going on in her life and just strange things, strange occurrences, and things in her past that were really strange. And she kept stopping herself and being like, I don't know why I'm telling you this. Like, this is so, like, these are like my crazy hidden stories of my life that just don't make sense. And like, I do not know why I am feeling so comfortable to tell you this stuff right now. And she just kept saying that over and over, and she'd tell me something else, and then she'd be like, I don't know why I'm telling you this. And it was so crazy. Like, as she was talking to me, her story and so much of Nate's story were really lining up in a lot of ways, and a lot of dots were able to be connected for her, to maybe clue her in on more of what her life has been. And I don't know how much else I want to really say about that, but basically it was a really powerful connection that night with her. And just encouraging her that, you know, like, it doesn't matter how scary and dark the past is, like, it's better to know the truth than a lie. And you got to do this for you, and you got to do this for your family, and just encouraging her and loving on her and giving her a hug and just telling her she's being a good mom and she's doing a good job. And it's going to be scary if she starts to really look into that stuff, but that we're here, and if Nate can do it, she can do it. And Nate walked me back down to the RV the last night of the conference, and I looked at Nate and I was like, Nate, oh my gosh, you're never going to believe what happened to me. And I didn't even have a chance to tell him right then, but I was like, I know why I'm here. I know why God brought me here. Like, it was for that conversation, for that one interaction. And like, even though I met a lot of amazing people and had great interactions all throughout the conference, like, this was a seriously powerful one, that I knew for certain that that's one of the big main reasons why I was at the conference, was to meet this gal. So after Take on the World, we are staying at a family's home and on their property that we had met at Take on the World. And we're hanging out there, and Jake Grant, actually, I think his car broke down, and so he ended up there too, somehow, at the same time we were there. So that was kind of cool to be able to fellowship with him. And while he was there, we had talked about maybe even that Saturday going down to Indiana and meeting with their Torah fellowship that they had down there. Like, oh, that sounds great. So we kind of made tentative plans to make our way down through Indiana, maybe by, Friday, and then be able to be there for Shabbat so we could Shabbat with this fellowship. It was shortly after Jake had left that I basically had a total meltdown. I don't know, just, we had been through so much. We had the whole whirlwind of the conference, which was awesome. You're on this kind of like adrenaline high the whole time, but then when it's over, you're like, whew, like, that was intense, I think my natural tendencies tend to be a little more introverted, in the sense that I at least, like, I can be social and outgoing for a little while, but then I need to like have my alone time so I can recharge. I hadn't had that time to recharge, and then we immediately went to this other family's place where we had, it was just like a continuation of the conference basically, at their house, which was awesome because we were meeting lots of amazing people, but it was really wearing on me. I just completely had a total meltdown, and Nate and I were just missing cylinders and just collided and had this huge fight, and we were crying, and we finally just decided, okay, you know what, there's too much to fix here, because clearly he had been triggered before the conference and we had to set that aside, and there's been a lot of things that literally we haven't had the time to deal with, and so we've literally just been setting it to the side, like, okay, this is a problem, but we'll set it over here. And it's just been stacking up, and then it just erupted like a volcano. So I put Naomi down for a nap in the car, and as we're driving, we just were able to kind of talk through some of that stuff and start hashing through some of the stuff. We go to Costco, we got some food, got some of our just basic needs met, which was great. We decide to go visit my grandma, which is like 20 minutes away from Costco. Had a great night with them, talked with them, decided to stay the night in the RV just there because it was about an hour away from the other property where we were staying, and that's the beauty of an RV, is like you can plug in anywhere. It's pretty awesome. So we stayed the night there, and the next morning, I think I was talking to my mom on the phone, so I wasn't paying attention, but Nate had actually decided to let the cats, we have 4 cats in case you didn't know, let a couple of the cats out of the rig. I wouldn't have done it, but he did, and just so happens he let Noodle and Simba out. Simba's primarily his cat, Noodle's primarily my cat. Right when he happened to let them out, a guy on a huge riding lawnmower comes ripping up the lawn next to my grandma's, and the cats go bolting. Simba goes this way, Noodle goes towards the back. Now my grandma's house backs forest, okay? And Ohio has this weird thing where there's no fences anywhere. So it's one yard goes into another yard, goes into another yard, goes into the forest. The forest is back behind the yard. So this gets sketchy. You see where this is going. He chased Simba, of course, because that's his cat. He was worried about him, wrangled him down, put him back in the rig, and figured Noodle would be back around shortly, because she kind of wanders off, but then she'll wander back. Well, then it had been a couple hours and Noodle hadn't showed up. So he came and got me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the cats, you even let the cats out of the rig, and then now one is missing? Are you kidding me? Like, this is so wild. Like, we should not have let them out here. Well, we're looking and looking, calling her name, nothing. And it was really weird because, like, even though she had gone missing, I had this strange feeling that God had allowed her to go missing for a reason, and that this just wasn't a fluke or a coincidence. Like, is it to keep us off the road? Is it to keep us from getting in a car accident? Is it to keep us from going to my cousin's soccer game? Is it to keep us in Ohio longer instead of going to Indiana to be with Jake Grant's fellowship for whatever reason? Like, I don't know, but like, I kind of had this strange peace that God was allowing this to happen. So anyway, we decided to stay another night at my grandma's, which we weren't planning on, and in hopes that she would turn up. We're trying to sleep and we can't. We're like tossing and turning. Nate is like just beside himself that he lost my favorite cat. He feels terrible. Eventually I fall asleep, and it was so weird. I ended up having a dream about Noodle that night. I was calling for her and she came to me. She came back, and she had like jumped up in my arms and was like purring, and I was holding her and snuggling her and just like crying and like so happy that she was back. And then I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, that was just a dream. Like, maybe God showed me that. Like, maybe Noodle's gonna come back to me somehow. She's totally gonna come back. Like, I know it. God's gonna bring her back to me. Like, I'm like all pumped. I'm excited. It's like 7 o'clock. I wait till the sun comes up, and then I think I hear meowing. So I run to the RV door, open it, expecting her to just be right there, and nothing. No cat. So then for the next 5 grueling hours, Nate and I checked the door probably 12 times because we kept thinking we'd hear a meowing cat. And we kept hoping, like being so hopeful that it was going to be Noodle, but she wasn't there. I didn't know what else to do, but I knew in my heart, like, we couldn't stay there much longer. Like, we had other things to do. We had other places to go. Like, we couldn't stay there. So, I knew that if we needed to leave though, like I felt like this pressing need that we needed to put up flyers. So we went and had some flyers made with a picture of her on it. So we took those posters and I put them up all over my grandma's neighborhood. And then, you know, she may have wandered in the backyard and across the woods. So maybe she landed on the neighborhood on the other side of the woods. So we put some pamphlets in those mailboxes as well, as best as we could guess what was the other side of the woods at my grandma's, because it's a pretty big woods. So anyway, we put up the signs, and after I put up the signs, I did feel peace. And maybe it was because it was I felt like it was closure. I felt like, if anything, maybe this will, you know, be some closure for me if she doesn't return. So anyway, we drove off, and as we're driving off, like the tears start flowing. I'm just beside myself sick. Like, I can't even explain to you. We were never going to see her ever again. And just driving away from there that day was sick. Oh, it just made me sick. So I felt like I was so sad in that moment. And I was like, you know what, God? Like, I'm not going to stand on my own understanding in this, because I don't know what's going on. And I just know that this hurts really bad. But I don't want to lean on my own understanding. So I'm going to lean on you instead. And I'm going to worship you, and I'm going to praise you amidst this chaos, amidst these circumstances that I don't understand. So I put on some worship music on my phone, and I sat there, and I'm like, I'm going to worship you. So I just started worshiping him, and the tears just kept coming. And honestly, I couldn't even worship him with my mouth because I was crying so hard, but I was worshiping him in my spirit. So I'm worshiping God and just letting the words of these songs just kind of wash over me, and just trying to praise him from the deepest part of my heart. And God right then brought this memory to my mind, and it was of Noodle. And it was of Noodle when she was a kitten, and when I rescued her. I'll try to keep it brief. But basically, my roommate at the time was really wanting a cat, and she had looked up an ad in the newspaper, and it said 2 calico kittens were for sale. So she asked me if I would come along with her so she didn't have to go by herself. So we drove way out in the middle of Pueblo West, way out in the middle of the desert, down this dirt road, not knowing where we're really going. It's really dark, and we pull up, and it's this farm, and there's a porch on the front, and it's a fully screened-in porch. And we get out, and we hear all these cats kind of meowing, and we look in the screened-in porch, and there is seriously dozens and dozens and dozens of cats in the screened-in porch. There's bags of food ripped open everywhere. There's poop and pee everywhere. It was just disgusting, like totally crazy cat hoarder. So we knock on the door. She brings these 2 kittens out and asks my roommate which one she wants to look at. And my roommate says, oh, I want to look at that one. That one looks just like my cat that had passed away and that she was trying to replace. And she hands me the other kitten, and I was like, oh, no, I'm not wanting another kitten right now. And she hands me this kitten, and this kitten, like, goes right on my shoulder here. And I was like, oh, man. So I'm holding this little kitten, and I had already had another cat at the time. And I was kind of petting this cat, and this little kitten, kid you not, was so skinny. I could feel her ribs. Her belly was all swollen. She looked so, like, sickly and, like, scrawny. And she just clutched onto me and purred. She was purring so loudly, and I'm just petting this little kitten. And my roommate was like, okay, I decided to get this cat. Like, how much do you want for it? And she said $10 a piece. Well, this cat digs her nails into me as I go to get her off of me. And I literally can't even peel this little kitten off my shoulder because her claws are dug down so deep into my skin. And she's purring like crazy. And I literally felt this little cat this little cat was screaming and saying, if you leave me here, I'm going to die. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I gonna do? And I was like, well, I think I have a $10 bill in my glove compartment. I can find this kitten a new home. I don't want another cat. I have a cat already, but I'll find this cat a good home. So I paid her, took Noodle home. Long story short, she ended up just totally melted my heart and stilling my heart away, and became best friends with my other cat. And they are like, you never find one without the other. When one is sleeping, the other one is curled up right next to him. It's like a little mother and daughter relationship. They are just the two best friends. And so anyway, that's Noodle, and that's the memory God gave me. And I was like, oh God, that's so sweet. And I'm just crying and worshiping him, and just like, just reminiscing of that memory of Noodle, of when I rescued her. It was really bittersweet, and I felt like God spoke to me in that moment. And he said, Chelsea, what you did for Noodle in rescuing Noodle was really sweet, but it's time to move on from animals. And he said, it's time to rescue and help people, because my people are dying out there. Like, man, it just pierced right down into the place, this deep place of something that I've been needing to confirmation on, or needing to deal with. Like, I can't even explain to you. Like 6 months ago, Nate asked me, he's like, are you in this? Are you in this fight with me? Like, do you want to help rescue people? Do you want to help bandage up, the brokenhearted? Like, do you want to help, like, find and rescue these survivors with me? Like, are you ready for this? Do you want to do this? Are you in on this? And I remember telling him, like, I don't know. I don't know if I am. I don't know if that's what God's called me to. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm ready for that or not. Like, it's been really hard being the wife of a survivor. It's been very hard at times. But God has seen me through, and like, I love my husband. He's amazing. I love him so much. But it doesn't mean it hasn't been hard at times. And I was like, if this has been that hard, trying to help a survivor who I'm married to, whom I love, how much harder will it be to love those whom I don't have that relationship with, who are just basically strangers to me? Like, how will I ever love them like Nathan? Like, how will I ever be able to love them enough to be able to, like, help them? And God hit me with that. And it was crazy, because I knew down in my deepest heart of hearts that he was right. And that I've been shirking my responsibility. And that I've been shirking my calling to help these people. And then he brought to memory a moment that I had with a woman at the very, very last moments of the Take on the World conference, which was a conversation that rocked me and rocked her, as she was coming to grips with the realities of what her past probably was, as she was talking to me. And God used me in that moment to be able to talk to her and encourage her and give her hope that if God could help someone like Nathan and all of his crazy past, that he could help her too, with all of the wild things that she had been through and the things that she was telling me. And God's like, I've already entrusted you with one. Like, there will be many more. Like, there will be many more. There are many more. This is such a prevalent issue. There are so many people hurting out there who don't even know that the way that they are is because of what they've been through. And they aren't even aware of what they've been through because they have dissociative identity disorder. They don't even know the great lengths and the great horrors that they've been through, because that's the idea. It's a survival mechanism, be able to survive horrible, unspeakable things. without dying. Right when we got to the honeybee farm is when I had all this revelation, and Nate pulls over and I'm in back just beside myself, and he's like, honey, are you okay? And I was like, you're never gonna believe what God just told me. And I told him, and he was like, finally. And he's like, God's the only one that could tell you that in that way. Like, God's the only one that could have shown you that, Chelsea. He's like, I've seen this in you for a long time, and so have other people, and like, you just ignore it. Like, you just ignore it. And it's so brutal when you get a correction from the Lord like that, and it's so gentle yet so precise, and it's undeniable, and just trying to process all of that, and oh, it's heavy. It's heavy, and it's heavy, but it's good, you know? But anyway, I'm standing there, and I'm like, oh, I really wish this cow would come over here. And he's like laying down in the stall, like back a ways. And so I start calling over to this cow, and I'm like, oh, it's just a cow. It's not gonna come over here. But I just called to it anyway. I'm like, here, come here, little cow. Come here, sweet boy. He goes to try to get up, and he can't. And he goes to try to get up, and he can't. And he goes to try to get up again, and he finally gets to his feet, but you can tell he's an old cow. He saunters over to me, and I put my hand down, and he just starts licking me. And he starts licking my arm, and I just start crying even more. I'm like, God, you are so sweet to me. Like, you're being so sweet to me right now. Like, in this, like, horrible, like, sad, confusing, like, really broken state. Like, you're still loving on me even through this, like, old cow. This is so funny. God's so cool. So then we headed back to the place where we're staying at the acreage at those people's home again. We went back out there, and it was actually really wonderful because we were able to Shabbat with them that weekend instead of going down to Indiana. So we stayed and Shabbated with them and got to see what a home fellowship was like, and it was so beautiful. It was so amazing. God did some amazing things that day, just gave us some amazing revelations on some things that we hadn't really realized or connected, and God just did some wonderful work that day. And I'm feeling so free and just happy and grateful for him and grateful for the work that God's doing, even though I'm so sad that I lost my cat. And it was funny, Shabbat morning, I had literally cried my last tear for my cat. Like, I was like, I cannot cry for this stinking cat anymore. Like, it was the same way with my dog. Like, I cried for 36 hours straight, and then it was literally like the tears wouldn't come anymore. Like, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm done grieving, and you can just move on. But you gotta grieve that out, you know? You gotta grieve that out. And so I did. I cried my last tear for Noodle, and then we had Shabbat, and it was such a wonderful, peaceful Shabbat. It was so great. And after we had gone through the Torah portion, and we sat down to eat some food or snacks, and I happened to glance at my phone because I hadn't looked at it all day. And I looked down at my phone, and I see I'd missed 2 missed calls and I had 2 text messages. And the missed calls, I looked at the missed calls, and they were from numbers in my grandma's region. And I was like, no. What if? Like, I wonder. And so I checked I checked the text messages, and it said, I think we found your cat. It said, will you please call me? I'm like, are you stinking kidding me right now? So I called this gal, and she's like, yeah, she's like, you know, we found her a couple of days ago. We heard some meowing, and it turns out she got trapped in our garage. And after talking to her for a little bit, I had realized she had wandered back through my grandma's backyard, through the forest, and ended up in a garage on the other side of the forest from my grandma. So Noodle wandered far and then got stuck in a garage, and that's why she didn't come back to us. Unbelievable. And so then I'm like, did you see my flyer? Like, how did you find it? And she goes, no, she said I had taken a picture of Noodle on my cell phone and posted it to the Nextdoor app. And she said, she said, and then a woman from the Nextdoor app had contacted me because she had seen the flyer in your grandma's neighborhood. She lived in your grandma's neighborhood, seen the flyer, and put two and two together that the same cat that I posted a picture of on Nextdoor app was the same cat on that flyer and connected me to you. And I'm just sitting there like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, this is an absolute miracle. This is a miracle right now. And she's like, I'm on my way to, I forget what city she said she was on her way to, but basically she was going to leave and she'd meet us halfway. And anyway, 40 minutes later, we went and got my cat. And it was before Shabbat was even over. I had Noodle back in my arms before Shabbat was over that Saturday. It was so unreal. It was just the craziest, like, most whirlwind time of emotions. Like, when does stuff happen like that? Like, I see a lot of missing pet flyers all the time, and I wonder, like, how many of those really get found? Like, how many people just, you know, one day their pet goes missing and they never ever see them again? Like, and how brutal that is. That is so brutal. And, like, I felt that. I got to feel the fullness of that. But then God, in his great, great mercy, gave me my cat back. And I just was so blown away by that because, you know, I had felt like God had done so much in that time frame that Noodle had gone missing that even if I would have never got my cat back, that it all would have still been worth it somehow. But then in his great love and mercy, he's like, okay, here's your cat back, completely unharmed. After all that, after you learned the lesson I needed you to learn, after you passed the test, in a sense, like, unbelievable. Back to Colorado with my cat Noodle, and we just had an exceptional time with people around Ohio. We came back, we finished downsizing. We had closed on my home when we got back, and after I closed on my home, I was like, well, shoot, I closed on my home, my mail can't go there anymore. I need to get a P.O. box. So the next day they said, okay, all your funds are going to be wired to your account. And I was like, okay, it's time to pay off debt. So I just went after it. The next day I just started chipping away at my debt, paying off bills that had just been so long overdue, paying off our student loans, paying off everything I could think of. And then I needed to open up a P.O. box or something. So anyway, I called the post office and I'm like, I need to open up a P.O. box because I need some place for my mail to go now instead of go to my house that is no longer mine. So I decide I'm going to head up to the post office with a couple forms of identification. So I tear up my basement, rifling through boxes, rifling through everything, trying to find my passport. Oh my gosh, I can't find a second form of identification to even open a P.O. box because it's so much chaos in the basement. I just like so frustrated. Finally find it, and inside it has my social security card, and I'm like, oh well, good to know where that was because I've been missing that too. So have both of those things, and I head up to where the post office, or head over to the post office. Well, on my way there, it happened to be during nap time, so Naomi conveniently fell asleep. And I said, not to worry, I'm going to just pull over on the side of the road and I'm going to keep paying bills and keep paying things off and getting a lot done. So she had about an hour and a half nap while I'm on the side of the road getting things done. And in the meantime, I had a coffee. So of course, naturally, me and my small bladder, I had to pee really, really, really bad. Sorry if that's TMI. And I was like, okay, nap time's been long enough. Like, let's go to the post office because I have to go to the bathroom. So we're going to get this P.O. box opened and then I'm going to head over to my parents' house and use their bathroom because they're right in the area. So I headed over to the post office and I go in, I wake Naomi up, I get her a snack, I walk in, my hands are full, I got Naomi, her water bottle, her snack, my passport, all the stuff, I lay it all out on the counter, and she's like, we don't take passport or social security card for your second form of identification for a P.O. box. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. This is ridiculous. She's like, we need your car insurance or car registration or like mortgage payment. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? So I gather up all my stuff, carry it back out to the car, can't find my car insurance, can't find my car registration. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm rifling through some old mail in the back seat, finally find a mortgage statement. I'm like, oh my gosh, hallelujah. I go back in, give her the mortgage statement. Okay, perfect. You can open a P.O. box. Go figure. So anyway, would you like a book of stamps? You're at the post office. Sure. So she gives me a book of stamps. I pay for everything. She took my driver's license. So I have all this stuff on the counter. I have my passport, my social security card, my driver's license, my credit card with all my funds from my house that just got, paid off. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I have all of this crucial information right here. Like, I cannot lose a single thing right now, and I'm feeling like I'm going to lose something because I'm about to pee my pants, and I have got to juggle all these things as well as some change of address forms and some P.O. box keys, okay? You know where this is going. So I take my passport book open, and it has these little slots for cards in it, and I said, you know what? I normally would never do this, but given the circumstances, because I have so many things everywhere and I don't want to lose anything, I'm going to just tuck everything in one spot and put it in my bag so that it's safely put away. Oh, sorry, that was a cat. So I went ahead and put my credit card, my driver's license, my social security card, inside my passport with my P.O. box key receipt. And I have my keys in hand, and so I take the passport, put it in my bag, put it on my shoulder, grab Naomi, grab her snacks, grab her water bottle. I have to pee really bad, and I'm getting ready to walk away, and she goes, oh, go try your P.O. box keys, make sure they work. And she rattles off the number of my P.O. box, and I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me right now? So I like waddle over to the P.O. box areas, lines of P.O. boxes, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, what was the number she said again? Shoot, I forgot it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like now I'm gonna have to dig out the receipt because I'm sure it had the number on it, or go wait in line, there was like a line of like 7 people now, and I'm like, I'm not gonna wait in line again. This is just turning into a disaster. So I put Naomi down, I opened my bag, I got back out my passport, I pull out the receipt, had the number on it, I finally checked it, checked out the keys and everything. Critical mistake. Did not put my passport with all of the crucial information back in my bag, and just had it in my hand with my change of address forms. Make it out to the car. All the while I am just trying not to pee my pants at this point because I have to pee so bad, and this is taking exponentially longer than I thought it was going to. So in the meantime, unlock the car, throw my bag in the car, but I still have my hands full, so I sat my change of address forms and my passport on top of the car. You know where this is going. I load Naomi into the car seat, buckle her in, trying to do everything in a hurry, get in the car, fly out of the parking lot, hauling it to my parents, okay? I get to my parents' house. Now I haven't seen them since the Take on the World conference because it's just been a whirlwind, the crazy Reynolds whirlwind. So I haven't even seen my parents in forever. I pull up and my dad's outside and I have to pee so bad. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not even going to be able to say hi to him right now. Like, I can't have a long, lengthy conversation. Like, I have got to pee. And I hate to be like, hi dad, bye dad, I gotta pee. Can I use your bathroom? Like, so anyway, I get out of the car and I was like, oh, you know what? I should give my mom my P.O. box key so she can check our mail while we're out of town. Great idea. And I'm like, oh, what's the number again? I forgot the number again. It's on that dang receipt in the passport. I gotta look it up again. So I'm looking everywhere for my passport now in the car, rifling through the car, all the while I'm like doing the little pee dance, like I have got to pee. And so I can't find it anywhere. And now I'm freaking out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I know I left it in the post office or something. I get out of the car to go get Naomi. I'm like, maybe I set it back by her seat. And as I'm getting her out of the car, I was like, it hit me. And I'm like, oh no. Oh no. I left it on the roof. And so I'm like looking on the roof of the car, looking behind it, looking under it, like nope, nowhere to be found. All the while I have to pee. So I run up, hi Dad, can I use the bathroom? Sure. Like run in, go to the bathroom, come out, bye Dad, sorry I can't talk, I lost my passport. Like it was on the roof of my car and I think it fell off and I have to go find it. I get back in the car, get Naomi back in the car seat, take off and just scanning the road, all the way to the post office, can't find a thing. I get near the post office and the turn right before the post office and I see the change of address forms in the road, but no passport. And I'm like, oh no. I pull over, get Naomi out, we go and look. Sure enough, change of address forms. They have like tire marks, like they've been driven over hundreds of times. And this is like, I literally went to my parents' house, which was like a couple minutes away. It's kind of like, it hasn't really been that long, but there's tire marks and stuff, no passport. It's right outside of a Mexican restaurant. And I'm like, oh my gosh, people have been like pouring in and out of this restaurant. Someone has my passport. They've crossed the border. Like someone's going to steal my identity. I made it so easy for someone to totally steal my identity. Like gave them everything they could have ever wanted to steal my identity. And now somebody for sure will because my passport is gone. Nowhere to be found. So I go in the post office. I am freaking out. Go in the post office and I'm like, did anyone turn in a passport? Like, no. These women in line felt really bad for me. And as I was walking outside, I'm looking under the cars. I'm just like beside myself. I'm sick. I'm shaking. I am nauseous. I am sick. I'm like, how could I have made such a crucial mistake? Like probably one of the worst mistakes I've ever made in my entire life. And I'm sitting there and these women are like, you know what, honey? Someone might have turned it into the police station. Maybe just go to the police station. And then the other lady's like, or you could check one of those, like the Nextdoor apps, those neighborhood apps. Like people post stuff like that all the time. Like, or Facebook, like a Facebook page or something like might have it. And I looked at her and I'm like, you can't be serious right now. Like I have lost my entire life all in one little packet and you're telling me to go on Facebook and try to find a Facebook page that's like, I can't even go there right now, lady. Like I was just like, oh, I can't even go there. So I get in the car and I go and I'm driving and I'm scanning the roads again. And the more that it doesn't turn up, I am starting to really freak out now. I am just like, God, in your great mercy, like have mercy on me, God. I have made the worst mistake of my life. Like have mercy, Father. Like please don't let this be my story. Don't let this happen to me. Like please, God, I need you to do a miracle. Like I need you to do a miracle right now. Freaking out. So I get all the way back to my parents' house and I'm about to turn on my parents' road and my mom calls me and I'm like, Mom, you have the worst timing sometimes. Like, why are you calling me right now? I am freaking out and I don't have time to just like talk about whatever. Like, I have like lost, like, So anyway, I sent her a voicemail. I'm sorry, Mom. If you see this, I'm sorry. So I sent her a voicemail. And then right when I did that, I see my dad, text message from my dad pops up. And it says, they found your passport. Call your mother. And I'm like, oh, that's what she was calling. Moms are sweet and they do have our best interests at heart. Even in the moment, you're kind of freaking out. So I call my mom, who had just gotten off the phone with my sister, who had said that she was contacted by one of her old friends that she used to work at a salon with, who was on a city Facebook page, who happened to see a post by a lady who said, does anybody know Chelsea Tronick? And made the connection that she used to work with Liz Tronick, my sister, and reached out to my sister and said, is this your sister? Somebody found her passport. And my sister got super freaked out because she's like, oh my gosh, they not only found her passport, but you know, because my sister reached out to this gal and she said, we have her passport, her social security card, her credit card, her, like, pretty much everything. Like, we have her everything. So we need to make sure that you can, we can find this gal. So anyway, my sister reached out to my mom because she was really freaked out and disturbed and wanted to see what my mom thought about it. And my mom had previously just talked to my dad briefly after I had left in such a hurry and said, hey, I ran into Chell briefly, but yeah, she had to go because she lost her passport. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, are you kidding me? So then my mom like tells me all this and she's like, you need to call your sister and get in touch with this lady. So I call my sister and my sister tells me the whole rundown and she's like, hold on, let me contact the gal. I'll get her phone number for you. She got me her phone number. I called the gal direct. I'm right in town and she said, hey, I happen to be heading over to the elementary school to pick up my daughter from school. And she's like, are you by any chance still in the area? And I literally was right across the street from the school. And so I'm like, yes, I'm right here. I'll meet you in a second. Pulled over. She pulls over, gives me my passport, gives me everything. And I'm like, where did you guys find this? Where did you find this? And she goes, oh, I didn't find it. My husband found it. He was out on a bike ride. And he found your passport and felt so bad for you. And we wanted to make sure we protected your information and we spared you of what my husband went through 5 years ago because he got his identity stolen when somebody stole his social security number. So we know how this feels and it's so scary. And we just wanted to make sure we could get this back to you as soon as possible. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. She gives it back to me and I get back in my car. And within 40 minutes of me making a very, very awful mistake, the Lord literally returned to me my passport, credit card, driver's license, social security card, completely unharmed, within 40 minutes of me losing it. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I just started crying. And I was like, God, this feels awfully similar to something I just went through 2 weeks ago. Slightly different circumstances, but same principles. Like I lost something very dear to me, and God literally miraculously returns it using so many multi-layers and different people and using social media to connect people in like the craziest of ways. I'm seeing a lot of similarities here between these two stories. I'm like, what am I missing here, God? Like, did I not learn my lesson 2 weeks ago and you showed me it again? And it really started freaking me out. So I head home and I call Nate and I'm just bawling to him on the phone because he doesn't know any of what just happened. And I didn't even have a chance to call him yet because God literally like fixed it before I even had called my husband about it. God had fixed it. Miraculously, divine intervention fixed the problem. And through so many different people, like literally, like I had to run into my dad when I was going to the bathroom and happened to mention that, who then called my mom, who happened to just get off the phone with my sister, and like so many layers of this onion. And then my sister gets contacted by someone who she used to work with who saw the posting on the neighborhood Facebook page with my name, and she recognized my name. And I actually knew this girl because I had met her back when my sister was working with her years and years ago. Crazy. And then that guy who happened to be out on a bike ride right at that exact time, he probably swooped in and got it right when I had lost it, just so that nobody else would have gotten it. And it happens to be a man that had his identity stolen 5 years ago. It's like God used that man for that exact moment in time and used what had happened to him 5 years ago to help preserve my information, and then used this roundabout way and used all three of my family members like simultaneously to help get my passport back to me within 40 minutes. Unreal. Like complete divine miracle. Like there's no other way to explain it. And I end up running my errands. I ran a few more errands. and I'm heading home, and my mom calls me, and I'm trying to rehash the situation with her, and I'm talking to her about it, and I am just like, Mom, this is so crazy. Like, this story is so crazy. And I was like, when does this ever happen to anybody? Like, this is so important. I don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss what God's doing here. Like, I don't want to miss what God's doing here. And as I say those words, Naomi starts vomiting profusely in the back, chokes on her own vomit, is choking so severely, so I have to pull the car over into this gas station. I pull over, get out, rip her out of her car seat, flip her upside down to get her to stop choking. And I'm like, and the phone went flying, so I lost my conversation with my mom, and I'm sitting there in this gas station being like, Father, I relent. Like, you are freaking me out right now. Like, you are freaking me out right now. Like, I don't want to miss what you're doing here. Like, what are you doing? And Naomi and I got in the car and we just sat there. And I felt scared to death to even just drive. And I was like, I don't even want to move right now. Unless God tells me to move. Like, I don't want to move right now. I am so freaked out. Because just like with Noodle, I was like, you know, obviously that happened for a reason, and it was a timing thing. And I'm like, is this to, once again, this is happening for a reason. Is this to prevent me from getting in an accident? Is this to prevent something? Is it, I don't even know, but it's so outside of me. Like, it is so outside of me, and it's outside of my control. Like, I can't do anything right now. I don't want to do anything. I don't dare move until the Father tells me. And it was weird because in that moment I happened to glance over at this intersection, this major intersection. Like, I am literally a minute away from being home. Like, I'm a minute away from being to the place where we're staying. And I look over at the major intersection, I see it, and I felt like fatality. I felt like fatality was going to happen in that intersection. Something bad was going to happen in that intersection. And I don't know if it was going to be me, had God not radically intervened, or if it was going to be someone else. And I just started praying right then and there. I just fell on my knees and just started praying. And I'm like, God, I am so freaked out right now. But you are so much bigger than this. And I just started praying, and I started doing some spiritual warfare. And I prayed that God would forgive the sins that have been committed on the very ground that I'm standing and in the surrounding area. And that God would forgive those sins and break that power of iniquity over that area that was charging up something bad to happen. And I prayed, and I was interceding there for a while. And then after I was done praying, I felt like God was like, you can go home now. Just don't go through that intersection. And I was like, okay. And I turned out onto the road, and this is the middle of rush hour. And I turn out, and I'm like getting ready to turn out onto this road, going a different way, avoiding that intersection. And I look, and there's no cars, like, anywhere. It was kind of spooky. And I was like, whoa. And it's in the middle of rush hour. It's so weird. Just this perfect window of no cars that God provided me. And I turn out on the street, go up to the next light, and I go to take a left. And once again, this huge gap. No cars in the middle of rush hour. And I'm like, whoa. And I turn and I head home. And I got home and I just was like, God, what am I missing? Like, I don't want to miss what you're doing here. Like, you're freaking me out. And I felt like God was like, I'm allowing these things to happen to you so that you will have something to remember. You will have something to look back on. A miraculous miracle that I performed for you, and that I performed for you, and I protected you, and I took care of you, and I provided for you, and I was merciful for you. Don't forget it. Don't forget me. Don't forget what I've done for you. You can put your hope and trust in me. Even when the waters rise, even when it's getting so scary and so out of control and you don't know what I'm doing, you can trust me. And I felt like God literally gave me those moments for a future time that I'm going to have to look back on. Or maybe future times. Maybe I'll look back on these many different times. But be able to look back on these moments and be like, God took care of me. God did the impossible. God made things possible when they seemed impossible. And if God can bring my cat back to me when I thought all was lost, if God can bring my passport back to me in 40 minutes using so many different people in so many different ways of communication, what can't he do? What can't he do? He can raise the dead. He can make the lame walk. He can heal the sick. The lost will be found. The broken will be healed. What can't he do?